Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome into another episode of the Bearcat Brunch. This one following a big win for the Bearcats over the Kennesaw State Owls. Again, really happy to have our sponsor, Royal Links Golf Tours. You know, two former Bearcats, Jeff Bartholomew, Hayden Moore, obviously Hayden, former quarterback. Great system, great company they've got with the Royal Links Golf Tours. Buddy and myself are planning a trip to Scotland. You know, we're looking to hit all the classics, St. Andrews, North Berwick, stay in two different places. If you've ever wanted to get out there, Jeff's been there, I think 20 times. Hayden was out there for the Open this past summer at St. Andrews, took in a lot of the golf, gaining some great experience on what to do, how to help you guys out. The trips are not just golf. You got castle tours, whiskey tastings, museum tours. It's the whole deal with them. So if you'd like to get out there, you're planning a trip, you got a buddy, a couple buddies, a big group, whatever it is, give them a shout. You can always check them out at royallinksgolftours.com or give them a call directly at 770-331-1525. And with that, happy to bring in co-host Jeff Howell. How are we doing this morning?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I hear you.
I had a long day yesterday, but probably not as long a day as you had.
My head is burning. I did not expect to get sunburn when there was no sun projected, but apparently there was enough sun to roast this bald dome.
Oh, speaking of that, my wife had my oldest kid had a football game yesterday. I get home and I'm like, "You are roasted."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, apparently the sun was going to come out today."
I did not feel it at all. And then I got home later and I'm just like, man, this head it's throbbing. So we're going to, we're going to fight on. We're going to fight through, persevere. But Bearcats, big win. A lot of bounce back things. Obviously, you have to take a little bit of the opponent into account, but just kick it off right from the jump. Biggest first impression from yesterday's game.
The penalties are still an issue. 10 for 90 yards. I don't think Kennesaw State was flagged once.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So I mean, it's kind of one of these. It's one of these things. Like you look at a game like this, and yeah, you can get like caught up in all the stuff we'll get into is the positives. But you still want to I think the more you take away from this game is like what negative things happen, which is kind of weird to say.
Yeah.
But like the penalties.
Still some things to clean up, which we'll get to. But yeah, it was, I think the pre-snap type stuff was cut down considerably. I don't remember any delay of games. I know there were a couple false starts, illegal motion, one towards the end when you had a bunch of reserves in and the synergy's not going to be there. But yeah, right. I mean, you had roughing the punter, which I'm not sure that was roughing the punter. You had the offensive pass interference where Josh Wiley just kind of got caught like blocking a little bit more than pretending to block on the Chris Scott play. So you had, and then Ivan Pace gets called for a face mask by kind of like accidentally pulling the guy's helmet off from the back. So, I mean, you had 45 yards and penalties there that were, I'm not going to say suspect, but, they're just kind of like 50-50 type plays. So,
yeah. And then, there was a couple times where, the offensive line, the very first play there, the first drive gets blown up by a sack, and you're all right. And there were a few times where the offensive line didn't look like it. I could only say it was a missed assignment because it looked like it was a totally. It wasn't somebody getting beat on the offensive line. They just were not there.
Yeah, both sacks. They brought a guy, kind of a corner or whatever you want to call it, safety blitz on the very first play and just wasn't picked up. And then it looked like on the second one where the guy came free up the middle, it looked like Dylan O'Quinn maybe just stayed with his guy too long, helping out Joe Huber and didn't come back to the middle in time. And that was the second sack. But I also want to give a big thanks to Anthony DeFino and the crew, Tony, everybody, Sabrina, letting the fan council check out the on-field suites, which were pretty awesome. it did mean that I had to get up super early this morning and actually watch the game over again because you just like it's a great view, and I took some awesome pictures, especially of Wiley's touchdown. We were right there. It was, but you just can't get a feel from like what we're trying to talk about now.
Yeah.
Of truly like what's happening, but it's a super super awesome spot, awesome experience. When the team runs out and everything, if you're gonna get the chance to check that out or thinking about it with a big group of people or something, it's definitely worth it in my opinion. But
you know what those are gonna run?
there's different sizes. So like I think the biggest one I think can fit 25. We were in one that fits 20, and then there's a size that is I think on the smaller end, like 8 to 10 people maybe per game. I think it's. I think I heard like a couple thousand probably to like something in like the 5,000 neighborhood for the big one, and then depending on what the game itself is. So, I mean, you get 20 people in there and split it up, and you can buy. They brought us sandwiches. They got snacks. You can buy drinks. Like, so yeah, you don't. I mean, there's a bathrooms are right down. Down the tunnel, easy access to.
And you can heckle Chad and Aaron when they're down there.
That's right. I mean, Aaron not so much. Chad was getting in the way from time to time. I had to tell him to get out of the way. That these were the big booster seats. Where we paid a lot of money to sit here, and you're standing there blocking my view. So yeah, but yeah, it's I can imagine like even for me, it was sold out and loud and everything, but I can't imagine how cool and fun it would be down there for like a night game against a big opponent.
I try to get down there every fourth quarter. Chad said he met about 6 different Bearcat Journal fans.
Yeah, he said like every box he walked by, someone would be like, "Hey, Chad, I'm a member at Bearcat Journal." I'm like, awesome. Maybe they all need to get one, and it could be the Bearcat Journal box.
I mean, it's not the worst idea you've had. I'll say that.
No. But yeah, I mean, the penalties still, it's just I'm not one to harp on them, but like you can't just have 100 yards of penalties every game. It's going to eventually come back and bite you in a key moment. I mean, we kind of saw it in the UCF game Friday night. I mean, they have 2 touchdowns called back from penalties, and they lose by 6. So, it's something that I'm sure the coaches want to clean up. And then the other thing, we'll get to a lot of this stuff, but the pass defense still needs to tighten up a bit. I mean, they luckily, you're not dealing with the most, high octane passing offense, but they missed one sure touchdown that would have been, in the 60 to 70 yard range.
The underthrown ball.
Well, yeah, in the second quarter that they completed that one, but it should have been a touchdown if he would have actually thrown a good ball.
That's what I mean. I think his receiver turned around, had to kind of fall on his butt
basically go down to catch it. Yeah, and then in the second drive of the third quarter, they missed. He overthrew a guy that maybe scored, maybe doesn't, but would have been another big gain. So and then they had on that first drive, that was a really great catch by the receiver, kind of going back across his body to one hand catch it. Yes. They had that one for plus 20. They had a couple other ones for plus 20. Just little things that you can get away with against Kennesaw State that you're not going to get away with against most teams that you're going to play that have, passing games that are fully functioning and are a big part of their offense. I mean, Kennesaw's offense is very much not that, but
right,
still something to work on in that regard.
They did seem to. I mean, I guess we saw it kind of last week, but they seem to be kind of a triple option team that actually incorporates the throw more than once, a half.
Yeah.
They were 7 for 15. They ran out 2 different quarterbacks. Xavier Shepard got I think he got the majority of the snaps back there. But there were areas of just these big pockets in the passing game, and I don't know if it's just because we switched up and we were so heavily focused on stopping the run up the middle. I mean, I think they only ended up with 140 yards rushing, 142 yards rushing, which is the first time in 73 games, I think, since their inaugural season that they didn't rush for 150 yards. Which they kind of had a chance to try and keep going for it there at the end, and they decided we're just gonna punt this away and run this out.
Yeah, I think part of it is defensive alignment. You're obviously hyper focused to stop the run, so you're playing 4 down linemen more than you usually do. You're playing 4 linebackers or some combination of linebackers and safety. So when they do throw, there's just more space where you don't have bodies where under normal circumstances you would. But even at that, the coverage can be better. I mean, guys were open to wide open. They just weren't able to complete the plays. But but on the flip side, hats off big time to the defense and the defensive line, especially holding them to that under 150 mark, under 3 yards a carry. Like they didn't have a run longer than 10 yards. So I mean, when you have Xavier Shepherd goes from carrying it 35 times last week to 7 times this week for only 17 yards. I mean, granted, he's got maybe a couple sacks in there too, but they weren't like big losses. So yeah, I mean, you've got runners of everybody's under 3 yards a carry except for 2 guys that had a carry each for 4 yards. So I thought the D line was excellent. Juwan Briggs, Ryan, big props to Ryan Mulaney. Tons of snaps filling in for Malik Van. Saw a lot more of like Noah Potter.
I think Corleone looked really good.
Yeah, Justin Watley. Like they went deep, which is good because they need to be those guys. And we'll get to it when we talk about the offense too. Like they need to get those guys snaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Deanna. Thanks for joining early. Thank you, Deanna, for joining early on I remember Central Time Zone. Ooh. So we're even an hour earlier for you. But yeah, I thought the D line shined. There just wasn't a lot of room for them to run, and the big stat to me the whole game that I took away that kind of allows you to get a 63-10 margin is they started 3 for 5 on 3rd down and then were 5 for 15 the rest of the game. And that allows you to get off the field, get your offense out there, and not let them kill the clock.
I mean, and still, Kennesaw State held the ball for 38 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's almost exactly the same split that they had last week. In their loss to Samford, but Cincinnati scored a few extra points in their 20 minutes of having the ball, and the two defensive touchdowns. Obviously, like you just love to see that.
Yeah. I mean, they have they're gonna give it to you. You got to take advantage, and we'll get into it when we talk offense. But the offense was very efficient. I'll get into some of the data behind that, but yeah, I mean, you're scoring, 40-something offensive points in basically 20 minutes. That's pretty good points per minute as the basketball, people like to talk about. You don't hear that as much in football, but yeah, Marcus mentions the Godfather. Godfather has been impressive, man. He has slimmed down. He showed good quickness on his sack. It wasn't like a bull rush type thing. I mean, he kind of bull rushed him initially, but then got skinny, if I could say that, and slid between the 2 guys and got his sack. And that's if you got him and Juwan Briggs or your 2 guys in the middle, it's going to be very hard to run on this team between the tackles.
They certainly are some large dudes filling up those holes there on the line.
Anything else on the defense that caught your eye that you want to talk about?
I mean, Deshaun Pace looked good. Obviously, I'll bring in the special teams there. Like, I mean, he had the block field goal at the beginning that I think kind of got UC right. And started them back. Like, kind of, I don't know if they came out. Obviously, first game at Nippert this year, and they were whatever. They kind of seemed a little off. I don't know if that's a right word to use there, but they seemed a little bit like they weren't hitting on all cylinders until the block field goal, and then after that it was like game on. That looked really good. He also, or maybe it was Ivan that was involved in the scoop and score. He knocked that one out, so the Pace brothers there Uh, Defense was just really impressive outside of, I mean, obviously we had some mistakes maybe or some whatever with the passing defense, which has got to get cleared up, especially now that we're going to go back into playing teams that's probably, more an even split of what they're doing or maybe a little more pass heavy.
Oh, yeah. That next two opponents definitely, well, I'll get into Miami more this week. They've got an interesting thing going on at quarterback, but Indiana definitely generates their offense through the pass. So, Ivan Pace, again, leads the way with 11 total tackles, a tackle for loss, a forced fumble. Jaheim Thomas in there with 9 total tackles. Juwan Briggs, 8 total tackles from the nose against the triple is huge because that means that they're not running. And their main running back was a dude, man. That guy
Preston
was
Daniels.
He's a hoss.
Dude, that is a huge guy right there
So,
coming up the middle.
You call that the fullback or the B-back, depending on how you want to call him in the triple option.
There's like Lorenzo Neal coming up the middle.
Yeah, but like 8 tackles from your D tackle there, and Corleone had 6. So that tells me that they were really that's lends you to the numbers. They stopped the inside run pretty well, and then shut them down. That's how you get to the 5 for 20 or 8. Whatever ended up being 8 for 20 total on third down, but 5 for 15 kind of the last 3 quarters or so, and those are if your inside guys are making Ivan Pace, Juwan Briggs, Dante Corleone are making those kind of tackle numbers against a triple option team, then you're having pretty good success stopping the run.
And they did well with the contain on the outside with the runs that they tried to stretch the field out. Like it just didn't. I mean, nothing really went well for Kennesaw State yesterday. But
no. I mean,
you look at it, but UC did well to kind of fix some of those other issues that they had maybe against Arkansas. And like you said, you got to take the opponent into context, but you still have to go out there and play football. So.
Right. I mean, the pursuit, the contain, the leverage, all those keywords that we hear coaches talk about seem to be better. Missed tackles. I mean, I'm sure there were a couple, but it didn't feel anything like, what we saw last week. So definitely something to build on. Switching over to the offense. This team has, I think there's some trends that are starting to emerge offensively. And the biggest one being that regardless of the opponent through 2 games, they are going to try to be very, very aggressive and hit explosive plays. I mean, we talked last week, 6.95 yards per play last week, which was 95th percentile. Take a guess what yards per play was this week.
11.7.
Almost. 10.6.
Fair.
Which is obviously in the 100th percentile if you're getting a first down on every play. On average.
Right.
Explosive plays again. I mean, last week was 11%, which is in the 90 percentile. This week it was 100%, or it was 10%. So, again, 91 percentile. Here's the biggest difference from last week to this week. Success rate, last week, 39%. This week, 62%, 100 percentile. So, they didn't throw the ball in the same way, I think, as they did against Arkansas because they didn't really have to. But still, I mean, your quarterbacks are 21 for 25 for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. You're going to be super efficient. You're going to be very successful when it comes to the, analytical way of viewing it.
Yeah, there were a couple 30-yard passes in there as the long. One was to Prater.
Yeah, a lot of good run after catch yesterday. Tyler Scott's touchdown, Prater's long play.
Yeah. 11. I think I had 11 guys written down as receiving passes.
Yesterday. I noted that.
Obviously, there were the 9 guys that scored, which that's always nice to have 9 guys. I mean,
I'll ask you this. Players. 11 guys caught passes, and I know. And Chuck ran for 6.6 yards a carry, and Corey ran for 5.6. So he ran the ball efficiently as well. But 11 different guys caught passes. Quarterbacks played well. I know Coach Fickell, everybody, we have this mantra of offensive and defensive line-driven programs. But is this really a passing team, though?
Why do you have to throw that right in my face at 9 o'clock in the morning? I think it can be.
To me, that's where their biggest talent is. I mean, all these receivers and tight ends.
I think it can be, and I think it should be. But then, like when you talk about that, because you have the speed, you got the 4.29 speed out with a couple of your guys. I mean, they've even got a guy that's probably not going to play much this year, but that also has 4.29 speed in Drew Donnelly. You got these guys that can burn them. You got Nick Martiner, who can probably go up and win just about every 50-50 ball that gets thrown out there. And then you've got tight ends that are probably both going to be playing on Sundays next year.
Yeah, I mean...
So you've got that, but then you got some pretty good running backs.
Thank you, Darren Russell, for subscribing to our YouTube video.
Hell yeah.
Glad
to have you, Darren. Good morning. But yeah, I mean, like, I mean, I like to sling it around. That's just my personality. You know, the way I look at football is passing game oriented. When you have an offensive line that is pretty good, veteran, protects the quarterback well, you just gives you so many different options as far as how you want to attack. And I just look at this offense and, Ben was not great last week and he was pretty darn good yesterday. And so maybe he's somewhere in the middle of that on a 12-game season standpoint, which is going to be good enough to win a lot of games. And it's hard not to just look at all these guys. Jane Thompson jumped up nicely yesterday.
Yeah.
Obviously Trey, Tyler, the tight ends, like they can really take advantage of mismatches because you just don't have guys that can cover that many people, especially with the tight ends they have. I mean, if they want to put both those guys on the field, there was some interesting stuff that I saw yesterday that I'm not sure I've seen them do. Like Chuck's touchdown in the third quarter, they had an unbalanced line with Tunstall outside of Huber and then Shimon Mateer next to him. I mean, nobody touched Chuck on that run. And I'm not sure we've seen unbalanced stuff in the past, so that's a new wrinkle. And I know that Coach Fickell they're always going to run the ball. But, man, it's impressive when they get it clicking, passing, and Ben is as accurate as he can be to what they can do in the pass game. I think it's going to scare a lot of teams because then you just come back in with Ryan Montgomery hopefully down the road and the other running backs, and there's a lot this offense can do.
Well, like I said last week, and I've been kind of bringing this up on a regular basis, this running back room, obviously when that first, right before Arkansas, when the depth chart came out that had "or" written all over it, and you see that the running backs were all "ors." It's nice to be able to plug and play whoever you need to put in there. Obviously, there's going to be some slight differences here and there, but you're not losing like a huge amount if you've got to put Kiner out there, or you got to put one of the Montgomerys out there, McClellan. Like you're not losing a lot. Really a negligible amount between who you put out there running back. I don't know exactly where I was going to continue going with that point, but that's what I was excited about was with the running back room, because I like a good running back that could just you've got a little bit of finesse and speed, and then you've got kind of some power guys that can then get away from you.
Well, I think that's it. That's the whole what you want in the room, and I don't even think you necessarily lose something. I just think you have guys that bring different elements. Like Chuck's burst seems back. And what he does, you run him 2 or 3 plays, and the defense is trying to adjust to his burst. And then you bring Corey in, and you bring an extra tight end, and then all of a sudden you go in the same drive. You go from more of a spread speed rush attack to more of a power rush attack. And it's just got to be hard on the defense to adjust to that mid flow. It's not like they come into a game when we had Mike Warren. It was like, all right, they're going to just give this dude the ball 30 times.
Mm-hmm.
Double buckle your chin strap. What's up, Ed? Double buckle your chin strap because this one's going to be, a smash mouth game. It's like, yeah, you got that with Corey, and then you also got it with different element with Chuck, and then we got these two tight ends and the receivers. I mean, the offense can go to not a new level even from last year, but I mean, it can be very on par with last year, when all the pieces are clicking.
Speaking of double buckling their chin straps, I don't think I saw one UC helmet come off yesterday.
I wonder if that was a point of emphasis in practice this week.
All week.
I wanted to ask Luke about it in the post-game presser, but I was scared. He scares me.
He would have been like, hey, you're the dude that's asked me 2 questions, and they've both been about helmets popping off. Like,
ever, right?
Get a new line of questioning, sir.
I did ask several questions, but not of Luke. I asked the other guys. So
yeah. But again, I hate prefacing it, but being on the field level, we always joke about the bull crap that we hear from the media of well, when I was on the field and you see up against the SEC teams and they just didn't match up physically, and we know that that's kind of, whatever. But it was glaring yesterday. One of the guards for Kennesaw State, I'm not sure if he was 5'11" and 200 and something, so there was a mismatch clearly, and you need to take that into account when you're talking about receivers running open and speed and things of that nature. But
you know what, those receivers were running open last week on
sure, we just weren't connecting,
right?
So that's the fine line of success versus call it failure, whatever, winning and losing, but you still have to defend them the way that you be sound to your keys and your discipline and everything, or else, like you said, I mean, they still had the ball for 3/4 of the game. So if we aren't successful offensively, this, if you're sputtering and not converting, and then it's not like we would have lost, but it's just what Chad and I talked about was this could be a kind of a sloppy game if you can't get off the field on 3rd down. If you're not converting 3rd downs, you win something 38-10 instead of 63-10.
Right. I mean, that looks a lot better and should put our Bearcats back with a tiny number next to their name.
I would hope, but I'm not confident. I think you probably got to do more than beat the dog, out of Kennesaw State. I
mean, they didn't fall too far out of the top 25. I mean, they were still getting some votes.
And the thing to me is just watch them and watch the rest of college football the first 2 weeks. They're a top 25 team.
Oh yeah.
Whether they're a top 25 team in September, I don't really care. Just keep winning.
Yeah.
That stuff will take care of itself. Obviously, we got to talk about some Evan Prater came in 3rd quarter, played outstanding. Really appreciate what Luke said in the post game about letting them actually run plays.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing we always see is you blow a team out, you bring the backup in, and he just hands the ball off and runs the clock out. They have to get him, and even if it was only a couple series, they have to get him meaningful game reps where he's calling different plays in the huddle, where he's assessing things at the line. Because, we see it all the time. I mean, we went how many years in a row until the last couple of years with Dez, where we played multiple and sometimes 3 and 4 quarterbacks every single year.
Mm-hmm.
So you just don't know, and you can't go into week 6, 7 have Ben get hurt, and Evan hasn't done anything
other than hand the ball off
of tangible, experience.
Right? No, he I like that. His passes look really crisp.
That's the best I've seen him throw the ball in the times that I've seen him. I mean, threw it well on the move, accurate on target, gave his guys chances to run. He played great.
I mean, he only had five attempts, connected on 4 of them. But I've heard that from several people now that like have kind of seen him, because like I remember obviously watching him in high school, and then but I haven't, I don't go to practices in camp for UC, so like I haven't really seen a lot of him there. But from some people that have, they put that up with one of his better throwing outings, even though it was only over like 5 passes. But when he was rolling out and still putting a little bit of zip on the ball, getting it where it needed to go. So there was a pass he rolled to the right. I can't remember who he threw it to over there.
I think it was Chris Scott.
But he had kind of a shorter range option in front, and he went over that and laid it right in where it needed to be with a little bit of power. So you like that, and then obviously the stuff he can do with his legs, 44-yard touchdown scramble. As things, I think that was a design quarterback run from what it looked like.
Yeah, it looked like it was the play they like to run where they slide the tight end underneath the line, and he could have thrown it to Shimon, but he ran it. Shimon crushes the guy. Blue Smith crushes the guy. Like, great blocks by both of them.
Blue Smith, Aaron's guy.
Yeah, for sure. But like what you're saying on that throw to Chris Scott, and they did that in the first. I like this 2 plays they had some misdirection where they faked a run and kind of looped the quarterback out the backside. Ben connected with Lenny in the first quarter on like the near sideline on the UC sideline, and then Evan threw that ball to Chris Scott. So I like that element of the offense too. Getting some misdirection doesn't have to mean like with a truly running quarterback. Like, you can do that with Ben, and then he has all the space to just kind of sit there and survey and see where he wants to go with the ball. The biggest thing I noticed with Evan, and the thing that I've noticed when I have seen him practice, and where I feel he needs to take that step, and he did it yesterday, throwing to spots and not to guys. When you're a younger quarterback, you wait to see and make sure that your guy is open. So you throw it to him versus the route says he's going to be here. I'm going to throw it to this spot and trust that he's going to be there. And I thought he did that very well. He threw it in front of guys. He threw it leading guys. It wasn't like, guys were waiting there, standing for the ball to get to them. So I think that's the evolution of a young quarterback to a more experienced quarterback, is trusting that guy's going to get there. He's not there yet, but by the time I throw it, then he'll be there, instead of, that's how you see those late interceptions over the middle, because they're waiting for their guy to clear and throwing it to him, and then the safety can come in and, jump right in front.
Jump the route.
Yeah. So,
the only pass that I think he like really probably, obviously any quarterback's going to want a missed touchdown back, but the ball to Will Pauling in the second quarter,
Ben, little underthrown.
Yeah. But other than that, like, everything else looked like it was rolling as need be. I only bring that up because I saw after that one, I saw some people on the Twitter sphere out there like, see, get him out of there.
Yes, the one of the 3 incompletions that he had all day.
Right, exactly. Like, bring in Evan. Like, how about you just pump the brakes, and we'll see Evan probably at the towards the end of this game. And we did, and they, like you said, like Luke brought up the point that he wanted him to, kind of be out there like it was almost like it was 0-0. Like, there wasn't this like. And
they weren't being egregious in anything that they were attempting to do. It wasn't like they were just standing back there and chucking it and trying to score. But these are all backups. They deserve to run the offense and not just stand there and hand the ball off and get 3 yards and punt. Like, I think any coach around the country understands that. It's one thing if you got your starters in there doing that stuff, but it was all a bunch of backups, and they practice and do everything that everybody else does. So they deserve to be able to be put in a good situation.
And I know that Aaron has been hyping him up, and we talk about backups, but Shimon Mater, like, that's the first time I've seen him like actually like obviously play, like first time he's been, Like, I haven't Has it been any practices?
He's gonna be a dude.
Good night. Like the catch and run, and then the block on the Prater run. Like, I think our tight end room is going to be just
ends like that. I mean,
yeah. I think our tight end room is going to be just fine.
For sure. Mason Fletcher in his limited action, longest punt of his career. Dude has been. I mean, we were, and rightfully so. You know, what's the punting going to be after James Smith leaves? And he has been outstanding. So, you know, that's always a positive. We know how much, you know, Luke takes the Jim Tressel, you know, line of coaching to heart, and punting is not a bad thing unless you're Iowa. Then it's a little bit much. Trey Tucker was back there on some punts, you know, and then they switched to Will. So they're, you know, Ryan Montgomery is typically the number one punt returner. So then, you know, Will is usually second. They keep Trey out of there with him being on kickoff and then being such a focal point of the offense. So I imagine, you know, depending on Will's injury, hopefully it's not too serious. You know, I imagine we'll see Trey back there or maybe somebody else, because, you know, you don't really want to put – I don't know how much you want to put him back there as well. So, you know,
I was thinking, and I don't know how much experience he has at it, or really if like they're able to do this or look into it, but like putting Drew Donnelly back there, I don't know if he has any experience returning anything. I just know that he is a lightning fast individual.
Yeah, I think in college, like, so rarely do you actually get to return a punt.
Yeah.
That it's like, I think they would probably err on the side of like, who's just going to catch the damn ball.
Right.
Who has experience judging the ball, fielding the ball? Like, who's just going to catch it? Our offense is fine. You know, you very rarely see, especially with these rugby style kickers, like hardly anybody is returning punts in college.
Yeah.
So, you know, probably just don't even like run the risk of putting someone back there that doesn't have the experience, and, you know.
Fair.
But you know, I think anything else from this one? I mean, I know we're not gonna go to, you know, there's not a whole lot else to
there's
say,
not a lot to break down here. Just I think we kind of touched on all of it. The offense looked like they were clicking on all cylinders. The defensive line looked very good to stop the run, and then using a contain on the outside. And special teams had a couple exciting plays.
Yeah,
big punt and a block
punt,
field goal.
Nice punt. You know, no field goals. Bunch of extra points look good.
Yeah. I think they said, I didn't know it was a thing, but I guess Ryan Coe has never missed a point after in his college career. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey,
we'll take it.
Good to know. Hopefully that continues.
So.
But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of covers it. Easy win. A lot of positives. A couple things that I'm sure they're going to clean up and work on cleaning up, and probably even more that we don't necessarily see that's a point of emphasis for them. So again, Bearcats defeat Kennesaw State 63-10, on to the battle for the victory bell, looking to make it 16 in a row next week against Miami, Ohio at Paul Brown Stadium. I believe that's a noon kickoff. I'm completely grossed out by that, but that's what you get playing Miami.
So why are they playing it? Like, I know that you guys are going to get into like the nuts and bolts of the matchup on the BCJ podcast, but why are they playing at Paycor Stadium?
Sorry, I should put $1 in the kitty for calling it Paul Brown. Part of the new contract. So this was their way of not having to go to Oxford every other year.
Oh.
And Miami got double screwed because their home game year was the COVID year, which got canceled. So not only last year was at UC, this year's at Paycor Stadium, next year's at UC. So they won't have had a home game in this series since like the Malik Clemens interception return game.
Wow. That sucks. I hate playing NFL stadiums.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but I'm much more of a fan of that than driving to Oxford.
That's fair.
It's much closer to my house, and yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
But we'll flip it now to what was another wild Saturday of college football. We can call this one Sunbelt Saturday apparently because they kicked some ass. Where do you want to start?
We can start right at the top with Alabama and Texas was a wild back and forth.
So I did not see a single play. So you're gonna have to.
You didn't see
help
any
me out
play.
here.
So the biggest play, the guy in my office that I work with, he's an Ohio State fan, so he had Ohio State, Arkansas State on. So like I didn't actually get to see a whole lot of the Alabama game.
The Butch Jones game.
Yeah, the Butch Jones game. I was like, I didn't know he was a coach there, and I looked up and I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate.
They hung with them for a minute.
At the beginning of the game, they did. Denzel Burke was doing his best Jalen Ramsey impersonation, just getting toasted, and against Arkansas State, which is just wild. I guess they have a receiver from Oregon State that transferred in, so like they've got something there. But the Alabama Texas game, I flipped back over, and they had backed up Alabama on their own like half-yard line.
Yeah.
They get into the backfield. Have you seen this? Because it's been all over Twitter.
That's the only thing that I've kind of seen, and I've read about. Like, I just don't understand how. So they tackle him, but he's not down because he's on top of another guy, and then another guy comes flying in and hits him.
Correct.
And he throws the ball, and initially they call it roughing the passer and targeting, which how is it roughing the passer? He's not even down.
Yeah. So
then they review it and say none of those things happened, but it was incomplete and not intentional grounding.
So they never like say anything about intentional grounding, right? They don't. So what I'm at work, it's on TV. Another guy comes into the office. And he's like, "Are you seeing this?" And so I was like, "Yeah." Like I'm trying to figure out what's going on. They get into the backfield. Obviously, I don't really know their the players, whatever. But he gets Bryce Young wrapped up, and he's kind of like alligator rolling him down,
rolling him over.
So he's on his back, and Bryce Young, as he's coming over, puts his hand down on the ground and is trying to throw the ball at the same time before he's down.
Right, so it's clearly not his forward progress isn't stopped. He's still trying to make a play.
Correct. So as he's doing that, he's kind of flipping legs up, head down. Continuing the roll. And another Texas defender comes in, and really, he's the one. He takes Bryce Young's foot off his helmet as he's going in, his Bryce Young's head's on the ground, and they're like, "Oh, he kicked him in the head." and I don't think he really made contact with Bryce's head at all. He's the one, the defender's the one that took a foot to the head while he's diving through because he's trying to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So he's trying to defend this pass as he goes in. You see the ball kick off, out of the end zone, and everybody's going insane. And so I'm like, oh man, this is gonna this is flipping the game right here. This is a safety. They're gonna get the ball back, and then the flags are everywhere. We're like, what the heck's going on? They announce over the little in stadium thing, hey, roughing the passer, and we're reviewing targeting.
I'm sure the crowd just went ape shit.
I thought really that the officials might get killed right there. There were some angry looking.
You can carry in Texas. You never know.
There were some angry looking Texas fans. So they announced that, and when they announce it, they're showing the replay over, and obviously then they bring in Prater,
rules expert,
right? And he's like, I'm not really sure what they saw out there. He's not down yet, So I don't know where the roughing the passer comes in. And he's like, but they announced roughing the passer, so like that penalty sticks. And they're reviewing the targeting. He's like, I don't see targeting, so they're not going to end up kicking him out because obviously when they go see this, they're not going to do it. And I turned and looked at my coworker and I was like, they're going to come up. They're going to like that official has been under the hood for a very, very long time, watching a very clear play.
Way too long for something that like, seems so obvious.
That they totally dropped the ball on. And then to their credit, I'm perfectly okay with this. He comes out from under the hood and says, wait a minute, this whole thing was explained to me incorrectly. There was no roughing the passer. We were just reviewing targeting. There is no targeting, fourth down. And then and that was it. There was no other explanation for anything else. He just came out and said, no, I misunderstood the explanation of the flags. There was never a roughing the passer. That wasn't even a thing. I spoke out of turn. I'm sorry. Fourth out. And so then,
my God.
Alabama had the punt from in there.
All that being said, you're playing Alabama at home. It's 10-10. You have the ball on the 2-yard line. You got to go for it in the first half. At the end of the first half, you're not beating them kicking field goals.
Nope.
You miss a 20-yard field goal. Terrible call. Whatever happened after that, I guess Bryce Young made like a silly play on the game-winning drive or whatever. But like, I would be going nuts if I was a Texas fan that we're not going for that in that situation against that team.
Yeah, you've got to you're playing to win the game, and that's how it should be when you're an unranked, team playing the number one team, and you've got them on the ropes with chances to kind of put them away, possibly early. They're going to come back. I mean, I thought it was going to be awesome that a kicker with the last name of Auburn was going to have the game-winning field goal against Alabama. But that didn't happen, as Alabama was able to go back down. Like Bryce, there was a lot of missed calls that you're going to have in games.
Oh, for sure.
And Alabama, I think Alabama had 100 yards in
penalty. Yeah, they had
in penalties too. So
the most accepted penalties they've had since Saban's been there.
It's not that's because Saban doesn't play true non-conference road games either. Like that place was insanity. Will Anderson said after the game that it was the craziest atmosphere he's ever played in.
I heard he had a rough game too.
Well, there was one where the running back had gotten out into the flat on a reception, and he kind of caught it, and his momentum took him to the ground, and so he rolled across the ground, and then as he popped back up, and that would have made it fourth down. And as he popped back up, Will Anderson just blasted him back into the ground like it's the NFL, which is where it's good instinct for where he'll soon be. But yeah, from what outside of that, I didn't see a whole lot of other stuff about how he was. But obviously, Alabama rolls on and wins 20-19 at the end of the game, and I would have liked to see them lose.
Oh, I think everyone would have enjoyed that.
Right.
Going to our former friend Marcus Freeman, 0-3 start to his head coaching career, loses at home to Marshall, another bye game where the Irish get taken down, and all I'm gonna say on this one is you mean to tell me Tyler Buckner's not any good? I could never have guessed.
Right.
Never have guessed.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things obviously that's a different kind of pressure cooker than a lot of other places as far as when you're in the head coaching spot. And I know I think Chad brought up last night that some other head coach, Brian Kelly was 1-3. Some of the other guys they brought in there that have been fairly good at coaching football started off with 1-3, 4, 5, something like that. To start their careers. I mean, he's got a pretty good recruiting class coming in. I think he's kind of fighting through what's left to, trying to piece together some semblance of a season. I don't know. I hope they don't rush to judgment and boot him out of there.
No, I don't think that's the case. I'm just like, you got to be able to. You got to be able to do better than that guy at quarterback. I mean, they've got a legit, really good defense. Outside of Michael Mayer, I'm not sure what they are really great at the skill positions. I mean, I know they had a rough injury leading up to the season with who was probably going to be their main receiver. But
well,
he just can't throw the ball. Like, great, he can run. I mean, and we'll talk about this at some point with our buddies down in Orlando. But like, you got to have some semblance of a passing game, or it just makes playing defense way too easy.
Yeah. I can say that those coaches up there at Notre Dame might want to go head over and watch some of the. They at Notre Dame they play full contact intramural football.
Oh, really? Like with full pads and everything?
Full pads and everything.
Oh, man.
And I had a buddy in high school that went up. He played football in high school and then played his first year at Notre Dame. He played full contact intramural football and then walked on to Notre Dame. That was during the Charlie Weiss era. But yeah, they've got full contact. It's awesome. They bring in Indiana high school refs to ref the games, and like it's a big deal. A big deal. And I know that there were several guys from those teams that ended up they were like, hey.
How mentally deranged do you have to be to like be done playing high school football and being like, you know what? I love it so much. I'm not even on the team, and I'm going to keep putting these pads on and just trying to like.
Well, they play the championship game in Notre Dame Stadium. So
do you know how many teams there? Like how many teams there are?
I think maybe 8. Maybe.
Wow, that's a lot.
Maybe 6. 8,
and they're all Notre Dame students.
Yeah.
Wow. That'd be pretty fun to go watch. Just see if there's like some dudes that are just like way better than everybody else.
It was a lot of fun to watch. Like, because my buddy walked on, like I said, during like the Charlie Weiss era, he walked on as a tight end, and there was another kid that was a tight end that walked on, and they were both on the same intramural team, and they ended up walking on to Notre Dame at that time, and
is that a good or bad thing that like Notre Dame's taking walk-ons from the intramural teams?
I mean, they're pretty good dudes. Maybe. I mean, they got in the senior game.
But yeah, I mean, if you're dropping Marshall, that means I know they don't have like tons of super tough games, but I mean, they still got to play BYU. They still got to play Clemson. This might not be a great first season. I do want to throw an interesting number out that I saw today, since we saw Texas A&M lose to Appalachian State at home.
That's the Giant Killers.
Jimbo Fisher and Kevin Sumlin basically have the exact same record through their first 50 games. So, like, you gave the guy like $1 gazillion and say that he's great, but you fired the other guy 3 years in.
I mean, you're looking kind of the same thing out of like Nebraska.
Oh my God! I mean, yeah.
I mean,
Georgia Southern throwing for 4. I mean, Georgia Southern's like a traditional triple option team. They threw for 400 yards against Nebraska.
Yeah, 37 for 56 for 409 yards and 1 touchdown.
How do you only get 1 touchdown on 400 yards passing?
Probably because you get close and you're like, let's go back to doing the triple option. You just start.
Well, Clay Helton's their coach now, the former USC coach. So I don't think they're as triply as they used to be. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, you just got like these
5 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he's just Texas A&M. You're gonna top 10 preseason again, lose at home again, totally dominated. Like I think App held the ball similarly to like what Kennesaw did, was able to just not give them the ball basically, and they couldn't get off the field. And then Scott Frost, I mean, he's done.
Oh yeah, I mean that guy. And that's like the thing. That's the angle that like all these people take. Like Scott Frost could have been like immortalized in a statue and all kinds of things down there, and instead, obviously, like you have the draw of wanting to coach where you like your alma mater, whatever, but you went to the bottom of the barrel in the Big Ten, and you've never climbed out of it. He could, like, before this week, I read that stat. I think I might have said it last week. He could win like the next 50 games in a row and not have as many wins as Bo Pelini when they fired him.
Yeah. I mean, you start the year losing to Northwestern, who got rocked by Duke.
Yeah.
Then you struggle to beat South Dakota, and then you lose at home to Georgia Southern. Like, you haven't even played any of the good Big Ten teams yet.
It is is wild how bad they are. That's just, it's insanity.
Jason asked if they can afford to wait until October when his buyout is cut in half. They should.
I mean,
what's
at this point,
what's the point if you fire him today or you wait till October? Like, you're still well ahead of the coaching cycle. Like, and I'm sure they're back channeling things already. Like, they know they're not keeping him. So who gives a shit if you fire him today or a month and a half from now? Save the money, man. Like, it's just waste. I mean, I know they don't probably even need it, but like, there's no point in firing the money or lighting the money on fire for no reason.
Launching the money into the sun.
Yeah.
Might as well just take a couple more L's and then be like, look, dude.
Yeah, just then you got
this ain't working out.
The only thing is that saves them is the buyout does drop during the season and not at the end of the season, because I know this has happened some places. These schools get fearful that they're going to get like hot and then they can't fire the guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, dude, Scott Frost ain't getting hot. So like,
no,
firing him now versus end of October, I don't think it really matters. But yeah, them, Texas A&M, like, enough with the Texas A&M is awesome, guys. Like, stop feeding me that line. Like,
well, it's because they're
I'm just talking to the
yeah.
ether of like top 10. They were number 6 preseason? Like, get out of here.
No, thank you. I disagree.
Anthony Richardson won the Heisman last week, and this week he looked like he absolutely looked like a guy that has started 3 football games. So like, pump the damn brakes on so many things, like good and bad. Like, we're 2 weeks in.
Well, it's funny. I saw somebody on Twitter, like it was a media member that was like, saying that basically that about Anthony Richardson, like he's the Heisman winner, and that they were college football playoff contenders and all this stuff. Like, please stop doing that. And somebody replied and was like, I mean, it was the media that did it. Like, yeah, you guys. It was you guys. Yeah,
exactly. And now my guys get to go in there next week and whoop that ass. So the balls are hot, baby. And I get to say eat shit Pitt, and it feels like the old Big East days.
I didn't realize that they won in overtime.
Yep.
At that, I'm surprised because my brother-in-law, his wife went to UT, and that's all that like he's suddenly become like a Vols fan, which is smart.
Is Jimbo bad at hiring assistants? Jason asked that. I don't know. I mean, I know his offense, I've heard, is like wildly intricate and has a million calls, and so I don't know if that slows them down. I don't know what the deal is. Like, and they've recruited insane. I mean, Nick Saban was complaining about their collective and everything. So they apparently have tons of talent, but under no circumstance should App State come into your building as good or bad as App is. I mean, they just gave up 60-something points to North Carolina and turned around 1 week later and like literally didn't let Texas A&M have the ball. And when they did have it, they couldn't do anything. A week after, a mediocre ACC team puts up 60 on them. So something is amiss there for sure.
And then you got BYU taking down Baylor.
That's a huge win.
I think I had like some crazy number. There was like some crazy number of upsets I wrote down.
BYU's two best receivers didn't even play.
7 upsets in the top 25.
Perfect. Maybe the Cats will be back in this week.
So, oh no, it's my computer was going haywire. That was not okay. So yeah, 7 upsets in the top 25. Obviously, like Arkansas State hung around with Ohio State for like a quarter and a half, maybe, yeah, about a quarter and a half. Ohio State's DBs questionable early on, at least.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't watch Michigan Hawaii, but that looked to be nothing.
You know who I'm interested to watch moving forward this year, and again 2 weeks, so I'm going to pump. I think Kansas State might be really good. I think they might win the Big 12.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you putting that in stone right now this week?
No, I'm just saying I think they might be really good. Like, I love their little running back, Deuce Vaughn. Their coach came from the North Dakota State. You know, they want to, make it a fight. They're uber physical. They got some impressive defensive line guys. Like, I mean, they worked Missouri, and I'm not saying Missouri is anything great, but like, they beat the crap out of them. And I just like the way they play. Like, they got Taylor Martinez, who apparently couldn't play quarterback at Nebraska, but he can play at Kansas State. So maybe that's another strike against Scott Frost.
Wisconsin lost too.
Washington State, yeah.
Yeah, what is good? And bigger surprise, I guess, Kansas being 2-0 or Nebraska. Actually, I guess, or Notre Dame being 0-2. Let's do that.
Kansas, this is setting up for a classic, like Texas almost beats Alabama, and then Kansas is going to beat them.
I mean, they're 2-0. They just beat West Virginia 55-42.
Yeah. Arkansas got another win on the road. They're 2-0. Or no, I think that was at home again.
Yeah, were they 16? Yeah.
Clemson like 35-12 over Furman. I can't imagine that was super. See, that's like the kind of score I was worried that the UC game would be.
Yeah.
If they were able to convert some third downs and have 8-minute drives but not score and stuff like that. We talked about this Wednesday night. We're not going to talk a ton AAC. One, because I just don't want to, because it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And two, we'll let Chad and Aaron talk about it. But the one thing I will say is through 2 weeks, don't try to tell me for one damn second that UC isn't going to win this league again.
There's no way. The only thing, I'm not even talking AAC here, but BYU is going to be pushing up for that.
Well, BYU has to finish. They don't because they're
independent. They don't get the automatic bid.
They have to finish in the top 12 and ahead of whoever the highest group of 5 team is, conference champion is. So, I mean, if they go undefeated, obviously they're probably going to finish ahead of whoever the group of 5 team is or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like they don't get that same benefit of, just being the highest ranked conference champion of the group of 5, even if you're ranked 20th.
So what, we got to look out for the Sun Belt? Is that what we're
Sun Belt, BYU too? Because I mean, if they go undefeated, we're with one loss, I can't imagine we're going to finish ahead of an undefeated BYU when they just beat Baylor and they have other good teams on their schedule.
BYU does have to play Arkansas.
They do.
In the middle of the season.
But yeah, so Al Kern asked about the field suites. Talked about that a little bit at the beginning. So if you want to jump back to that, they were pretty awesome. TV's not quite up and running yet. They said in the next couple of weeks. There are 2 TVs in our suite.
You had no TVs whatsoever?
No, I couldn't. Yeah, they weren't functioning yet. So hopefully they are by the Indiana game. That would be a pretty big miss, I think, if they weren't up. So that's why I had to go back and rewatch the game this morning, because I couldn't see any replays. I couldn't see anything along those lines. But yeah, the Texas Tech Houston game overtime. Houston gives up a 4th and 20 in the first overtime, and then loses in double overtime to a backup quarterback at Texas Tech. So,
that was That was the other thing. Yeah, I'm not
I'm gonna slow down on the Houston takes, guys. Like
right.
everybody's saying that they're like primed to take UC down. Through 2 weeks, I'm not so sure.
And then, like in Alabama, when they play against Texas, Quinn Ewers goes down in like the
Yeah, he
first
got
quarter,
hurt.
and then their backup quarterback was playing on one leg. The kid could barely. I mean, he took off on one run and literally like just kind of like took himself out of bounds and was like, it looked like he was dragging his leg behind him because I don't know. I think he got hit maybe the first or second play he was in, and it was like, well, we don't have anybody else, buddy. Like, and he acquitted himself very well out there.
Yeah, Arch Manning isn't there yet.
Yeah, so exactly. They were like, can somebody get on the phone and get him up here, Newman High School? But yeah, so that was the other thing. I mean, Alabama was in a true road non-conference game against essentially a backup quarterback on one leg, and barely pulled out the victory. I'm gonna take as many shots against the Crimson Tide as I can.
Hey, I don't blame you. That's the frustrating part. Is if you're for all fans, I mean, we all just want to see them pegged down a little bit. We want to see everybody lose, and then but like if you're a Texas fan, like we had them beat, and you just couldn't get it done, and that's the rough part. Is there anything else? I would love to talk about our friends. Like I said earlier, our friends down in Orlando, but
well, we can leave. We leave
I'm
that.
Gonna hold off on that.
Chat. I'm sure Aaron's got some angry hot takes, and
they do have a pretty good running back playing quarterback though, so they have that going for them.
Yep. The only reason that we talked the one AAC team is because they were in the top 25.
That's right.
So I'll claim that.
Yeah,
and I know Aaron and Chad are trying to lay claim to the Big 12 review starting next year. I disagree.
No, they can't, because if they're games of importance, then we're going to talk about them.
Right. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for Aaron's head to pop up.
He's probably asleep. He's not even paying attention at this point. But we'll shift. We think we covered that well. Again, another, it seems like no matter what, you can look at the schedule come into the week, and there were some, obviously Texas and Alabama, the headliner, but there weren't that many at first glance games where you were super excited to check out. And college football just never disappoints. There's always wildness. There's always upsets. Things never go as they seem. But then we shift from that right into opening week of the NFL. Once the season gets rolling, we'll obviously talk a lot more Bearcats and how they actually did. So, look for that next week. So we'll kind of use this segment today to just give a quick whip around the league. What are you looking for? Obviously, you and I are both big Bengals fans, so we'll touch on the Bengals. But, I'm definitely looking to see if the Ravens, what they try to do against Sauce.
Yeah.
Their wide receivers are not exactly the strong point of their team. So is he matched up with Rashad Bateman, like basically exclusively try to take him out of the game and make them totally one-dimensional?
I hope not, because my phone got set on auto draft because I was at my kid's practice, and I have Rashad Bateman.
Jeff, no one cares about your fantasy football team.
So now
that needs to be like my Twitter. Like I want that in my Twitter bio is like, no one cares about your fantasy football team.
I care about my fantasy football team that got auto drafted.
Well, that's your fault, man.
I was at football practice. So either way, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see what goes on there. I'm also interested to see what happens with the Falcons. Like, are they just gonna have like Mariota on this like you're out, like we're gonna go ahead and put in?
I mean,
like,
that's interesting. Now. On the other end of things, like how bad are they gonna be? Like Drake London, who they drafted this year, got hurt in the first preseason game and hasn't done anything since then, is their wide receiver one. That kind of shows you like where they're at.
Yeah, that's
and then Alec Pierce seems to be a starter ish,
nice.
whatever
Yeah.
you want to call that for the Colts. So
That's good there.
Having a competent quarterback in Matt Ryan should help the Colts this year, considering they got a really nice offensive line and running back.
And Monday you'll have the Seahawks playing, so you got Kobe out there.
Kobe. Yep. Thursday night is I know they'll play today, but Thursday night we'll get Chargers Chiefs, so we'll get some Kelsey and Brian Cook on national TV.
Mm-hmm.
James Wiggins, I think since the last time we talked, James Wiggins was signed to the Chiefs practice squad. So they keep their love of Bearcats going. So what are you looking for today, Bengals Steelers?
We kind of talked about this a little bit last Tuesday on part of the punctuation, but I just want to see I'm interested to see how these guys. I know they're professionals, and but they haven't had game speed since February. None of them have had any reps outside of maybe Cordell Volson. He had some reps, obviously, as he earned his way into the starting line there on the offensive side. I want to see what Burrow can do with time in the pocket. And I'm saying that expecting that the offensive line is going to perform together and gel. That's one of those things. Those guys haven't played together.
Right. I mean, I think that's the thing I'm looking at is both lines.
Yeah, the
Bengals line. Are you just competent? Because you went to the Super Bowl being terrible. I'm not saying that a competent line makes them a shoo-in to go back, but
right.
Are you just competent? Are you? I think Joe Mixon had was last in the league at yards before contact.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you follow the Bengals, last year was any yards he made were on his own. He had,
he was fighting for those.
How does the line hold up against the Steelers? They have a great defense, good defensive line. T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, and then
is T.J. Watt going to play?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like he's fine.
Okay.
And then reverse, the Steelers' offensive line, from all indications, is an absolute disaster. All preseason, Trubisky running for his life. Any quarterback they had in running for their lives. Can't run the ball. Najee Harris, I think, is nursing some form of an injury. So does Trey Hendrickson, do the new defensive ends, do they just wreak havoc and make life miserable for Mitch Trubisky? Because there are some monster mismatches on the offensive line. I was listening to something this week, the guy that covers the Steelers. They drafted a guy last year to play center. He was so bad at center. It was almost like the Billy Price thing. He was so bad at center, they moved him to guard, and he's terrible at guard too. So they don't even know what, I guess they're going to play him at guard. And then their left tackle, Dan Moore, I guess that's Hendrickson might just have 3-4 sacks today based on the things that I've heard about him. So
I'm also excited for Joseph Asai to get some.
Yeah, all those guys
finally get out there.
Jeff Gunter, Zach Carter, they all flashed in the preseason against 2s and 3s, obviously. But that was the biggest Achilles heel, I think, Bengals defensively last year. Was if Trey Hendrickson wasn't in, they were not generating pass rush from anywhere else.
Yeah, that'd be an issue. I don't know. Just we'll see kind of how this rolls out. I don't want to lose to the Steelers, obviously. I don't want to hear that. There's too many people around me that are Steelers fans.
I'm pretty sure if the Bengals win, it'll be 4 in a row. I know that, and that'll be the first time they've lost to a team 4 in a row since they lost to the Patriots back when Tomlin first started. Because you had the Ryan Finley game, the COVID year, then the 2 wins last year, so this would make 4 in a row.
Okay, and I did see another stat that this is the first time that 2. Mr. Football Ohio's will be on the field.
Oh yeah,
in the game with
Joe and Mitch was 2 years before Burrow.
Yeah. Did we not have the? We had just as many Mr. Football Ohio's on the field yesterday for UC.
Yeah, Evan Prater and Corey Kiner.
Yeah, so just little things that wrap up in there.
But yeah, I'm also interested to see how teams what they try to do with Jamar Chase. Everybody all off season has talked about, well, they're not going to let him do that again. And I'm like, well, maybe he's just that damn good.
But maybe, okay, so my thing has always been with this is like, if you come after Jamar, let's say you're like people don't realize, I think, or they just refuse to admit how good the rest of that three-headed monster at receiver is.
That's the thing.
They just refuse to like say that T. Higgins is good. Like T. Higgins is really good, like very good, a number one on a whole lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean, you want to dedicate that much to stopping Jamar Chase? I feel like Joe Burrow is totally fine with that. He will find the open guy. The last half of the year last year, Higgins put up the same / better numbers than Jamar did.
And I want to say we're better this year at tight end than we were last year.
Oh, I agree. Hayden Hurst is a much more, from a passing standpoint, from a third down standpoint, from a red zone standpoint, where they really struggled last year.
Mm-hmm.
Red zone third down. Like he's a much more viable option than CJ Uzomah was.
I was on the One Time for the Fan podcast, which is a Falcons podcast, a few weeks ago, and I asked them about him. I'm like, hey, like what's the actual on the, and they were all actually pretty upset that they let him go. Like they didn't use him right. Like he had flashes of, he's got the speed, he can catch. Like they just didn't use him right, and so he moved on. Like,
yeah,
he was like they all said they're like, you got a good one there. Like they all agreed that it was an upgrade over Uzomah. So I was like, all right, I will take.
Yeah, I think CJ's personality and a lot of the stuff he did in the locker room, which I'm not taking anything away from, kind of overshadowed that he's just kind of a dude as far as just kind of a guy as far as
just a guy
as a tight end. When you already have do you want to pay him 3 years and whatever the Jets paid him, 3 years, $21 million, when you already have Mixon, Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Chris Evans, or do you want to pay Hayden Hurst 1 year, $3 million?
Right. Well, I think they were obviously very clear on what they wanted to do there.
Yeah, and I don't really blame him.
And he's taken some shots here and there over the summer, but
hey, whatever.
You're gonna do that.
I'm sure he's happy in New York. I mean that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What?
I bet he's got a new podcast coming out.
It's pro football, man. I mean, it's a business. You got to understand both. You got to understand both sides. But I don't blame a player for ever asking for whatever they feel their value is. And I don't blame a team going like, we just don't value you that way. It's not personal. Like we have 50-something, 60-something other guys that we've got to pay.
Right.
And if we pay you, if we start paying you something that doesn't line up, then we're gonna come up short somewhere else.
And we can actually not pay you that, and then maybe come out ahead. So
exactly,
hopefully somebody will pay you that. You're a nice guy. See you later.
But I think that that pretty much wraps it up for us today. I think we're gonna always gonna keep it in the hour and a half window. Not as much to dissect on Kennesaw State. I'm sure we'll have a little bit more next week with the Miami game, and then a full slate of NFL games, another big week of college. Make sure you check out all the nightcaps, Aaron and Chad talking, whatever the hot topic is nationally or UC or AAC. Make sure you're following myself and Jeff on Twitter. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube pages. We're still working, I think, on getting the podcast back up on Apple. I'm not sure what happened there, but please rate, review, comment. We appreciate all of it. I read the comments, try to take them to heart where we can get better. Only episode 2, so we're still working, still trying to get better. But a successful week, so it's not our fault. It is not the show's fault.
If we'd have lost to Kennesaw, we would have had to just shut this thing down.
Yeah, I think we would have. Like honestly, I think the way I am with some superstitions, I probably would have just been like, nah, it's just anymore. This just ain't working. So we thank you again for joining us on Bearcat Brunch. Big thanks again to Royal Links Golf Tours maybe in the next couple of weeks, I'll reach out to Jeff and Hayden and see if we can get Hayden to come on for a segment to kind of talk about a game or kind of, maybe like the quarter pole of the season.
Okay.
So with that, I hope everybody rested up from the first Nip game and got some good brunch in you this morning and are ready to watch some more football. It's a great time of the year.
First game at Paycor Stadium.
Lamb Big goes, you all would have been the 12th SMU episode. We would have been. We would have been the episode of their insider thing that never saw the light of day after UC kicked the crap out of them. Still one of the funniest things to me that has happened in the last couple of years.
I don't think I know that story.
So ESPN Plus was doing like a week, like almost like a Hard Knocks type thing on SMU through the season. It was called like the Hilltop or something. So every week they'd have like a 30-ish minute episode. Part of it would be the game prep for that next opponent, and then it would be the game. 11 weeks, totally fine. 12th week, the UC week, never aired, and the show stopped after that. So they just ended the show after UC beat the crap out of them. So they obviously filmed the show that week, like leading up to the game. They filmed the game, and somebody said, like, whether it was that or that the Sonny Dykes leaving rumors had like started to pick up, somebody said, like, we're done. Because there was not a 12th episode. There's not a 13th episode. Like, they just ended the show.
Locked that away with all those movies.
It just so happened to be the week UC beat them, whatever, like 49-7 or 10 or something.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. So every so often I'll jump on Twitter and be like, where is my 12th episode? At SMU football, like at ESPN Plus. Like,
that's amazing. I've never heard that. But
yeah, the Bearcats ended a show.
Stopped it.
Just add that to the list of accomplishments. Yes.
Never reached the hilltop.
The ponies never reached the hilltop. But again, Thank you, everybody. Have a great Sunday. We will be back next week, 9:30 sharp, talking Bearcats, Redhawks, and the rest of college football. Have a great day.
Bye.